Hi everybody, today I have an update for you for the inline channel series 2, and this contains some cool new features and some fixes. Of course I had only 1 week for the work and for all the testing, and I tried my best to don't break anything, but as you know, you're always welcome to report strange behavior of the plugin in the comments. But when you do so, well, let's agree to a few little things. I'll give you a fantasy example. A comment could be, the equalizer curve isn't shown correctly. Please write in the comment what isn't shown correctly. Is there a left-right offset or an up and down offset? Are there strange glitches? And also please provide more information, like what is your operating system? Because I had some of the errors that were only on Windows, and the context where you have the problem. Because the problem with the equalizer curve in this example could be in the plugin window, it could be in the embedded mode, or it could be in the remote plugin. Or it could be everywhere or any combination. So I think you understand how to report the problems. And before we come to the fixes and to the new features, let's quickly answer some questions. And the first thing would be, people say the update doesn't appear or the plugin doesn't appear in my plugin list. So when you update the package series 2 mixing plugins, where this plugin is bundled in, we go to extensions, ReaPack, browser package. And now we type series, or best before doing that, click here and click on refresh repositories. So now I fetched the latest list, which are the current plugins. Then I click on the plugin, click on update to the latest version, and then I click on apply. But when you now go to your effects browser and the plugin is still missing, that might be because the database in Reaper is still the old database. So click on effects and scan for new plugins, and then it should be there. Same counts for installing updates. So if you installed the update and you have a project where you have the instances running, these are still the old versions. So you have to restart repo once to load the current version. Okay, the next thing would be, why can't the plugin just get the name for the channel and the color for the channel from the track name and the track color? And the answer is simple. I don't have access to these variables from the plugin code. So it's simply not possible getting this information into a plugin. At least as far as I know. If you know a way, please tell me. Then another question was, can I resize the plugin? Yes, of course, you can always resize the plugin, but in the embedded mode, it will always take the space that it gets. So if you want to make your channel larger or your sense list larger, then this will happen. You can't make the plugin shorter because it always takes the space that it has. And you guessed it, that's also not possible to change from the plugin code. If it was, I would have done this. Let's see another thing that is not possible from the plugin code, and this is renaming the channels directly in the MCP mode. So if you hover the name, it says open, and you can open the plugin and rename it here. And the reason is quite simple. In this mode, it is not a window which can have focus for the keyboard. So by typing in names, you would trigger all kinds of shortcuts that you have for your mixer. So if you want to quickly rename some channels, please use the remote. You can rename the channels from here very quickly. Another thing that is not possible from the plugin code is accessing the sense values. That would be nice to have it in a channel strip plugin, simply not possible. Then we had this thing about the shortcuts for the high pass and low pass filters, which is holding Alt and clicking. And on Linux systems, the Alt click can be assigned to moving a window around without touching it at the title bar. So you can just click it anywhere holding Alt, but you can disable this in your settings. Okay, another question was, why can't we see the scopes from the compressors here in the remote? Well, all the plugins, all the instances in the channels and the remote plugin itself use a shared memory, and doing all these scopes in real time is simply just too much traffic in the shared memory. Of course, it is possible, but it causes a lot of CPU use, and if you have a bigger track count, the shared memory would just not be big enough. So that's that. Let's come to the news. Maybe the first thing is about running it on Windows. So I'm using a Mac, I don't see these problems here. But of course, if you open another page, let's choose the compressor page. And I told you to hold the Windows key and click to come back. That always opens the Windows Start menu. So of course, that was a stupid idea. So now you can click and always get back by right-clicking. The next thing that we had in Windows was that we could open the settings menu in the plugin, but we couldn't open it in the embedded mode. And that's funny, because on the Mac it worked, on Linux it worked, but on Windows systems this overlay menu just didn't appear. And that's not a problem with my code, that's a problem that Windows seems to not want to do these overlay menus here, so I couldn't fix that. But I fixed it in another way. So now when I click here, the menu opens in the embedded view. So let's see, we would have the processing on playback on stop on recording, and this is up here. The next point would be the groups. So we had add to group, start a group, or if we are already in a group, delete a group. And here we can see the groups. And if they have a color, we can add this. If they are gray, we can start the new group. And if we join a group, we can delete it here. Here we can change the routing from first compressor, then EQ to EQ and then compressor. We can give the track the color. We can adjust the page reset time. So now it's on not resetting. I set this to 2 seconds. And it goes back automatically. And we come to the next entries in the menu in a minute. But first let's see other new features. And the first new feature is I built in another knob that you can click with holding Alt. And this is the out gain. So now we have also an in gain. And here you can adjust your input from -30 to 30 decibels. And as I said, holding Alt and clicking toggles the out gain and the in gain for the plugin. So now let's come to a more obvious thing. You'll immediately notice that when I hit play.
Every morning I would see her waiting at the stop.
Yes, there is an analyzer running in the equalizer curves.
Every morning I would see her waiting at the stop. Sometimes she'd shop.
And this also works in the remote.
Every morning I would see her waiting at the stop.
But if you find that annoying or it costs you too much CPU, you can simply go here and disable it.
Every morning I would see her waiting at the stop.
Okay, the next little thing is about the low pass filter. So let's click the high shelf holding Alt, so we see the low pass filter. And in the last version, you had to select 12 dB, 18 dB or 24 dB per octave to have it enabled, or you could select off. And now you can also use the LED for turning it off. And if you turn it on again, it always starts with 12 dB as a default. Okay, now we eventually get to the more interesting things. And this again is in the settings. Here we have compressor and we can select the key. Usually it's set to self, but you can set this to sidechain. So now I have a sidechain mode in the compressor, and this is always indicated here or here. And you simply use the in pins 3 and 4 for the external sidechain. And the other new feature for the compressor is the saturation mode. So you can go here and we see saturate off in mode 1, 2 and 3. And as I already said last time, the compressor code is taken from this compressor. And here you have this distortion 2, distortion 3 or distortion off, but actually it's not off. It's a light distortion still. So now I put that in here. You can select, and mode 1 would be if the treasure plugin would be off. 2 and 3 are the same. And in this plugin, you can actually really turn the saturation off, so you have a clean compressor. And the last thing is a bit a bigger topic. And this was about that the plugin caused a little latency of 16 samples. And this could cause some comp filtering in the highs if you use it in delta mode or in parallel processing. But I solved it. And this topic is about oversampling. So if you don't want to know too much things about oversampling, I think with this plugin, you should be fine to just leave it off. But you can turn it on here at the oversampling item in the menu. And by default it's off, but we have two other options. One is min phase anti-alias and the other is only filter shapes. So let's see what it's about, and let's first care about the filters. So now here we see a little measurement tool where I can measure what the plugin actually does. For example, if I turn up this filter, it shows what it does. And what it also can show is the phase shift the plugin causes. So I click on phase and now we see the filter causes a phase shift. That is absolutely normal, and when I reset this filter, we don't see a phase shift at all. And we also see I currently set the latency to 0 samples. So now we have an unchanged signal here. And now let's turn the filter up again and see what we call a decramped filter. So when I move it to the right, you see that the filter shape stays as it is. Standard digital filters can have the problem that they always want to go back to the 0 line here at the highest frequency. So they will be deformed. The left side will stay as it is and the right side will drop faster. But that is not the case in this plugin. So we have so-called matched or decramped filters. But if you take a closer look at the shape on the right side, you see that when I go really high, it doesn't drop fast enough. But that's just an offset of maybe 1 or 1.5 or so decibels in the range above 15 kilohertz. So that should not be too obvious. Maybe some super experts think that they hear that. But now let's go to the settings and say we want only filter shapes oversampling. And now we see two things. Let's ignore this phase for a second. And let's see that now the filter shape is even better above 15 kilohertz. And also the low pass filter really has this curve of 18 decibels per octave. And without the oversampling, it could be 19. But you should still don't worry using no oversampling here. It doesn't make your audio worse. So it's not about sound quality. It's just about the last little bit of correctness of the filter curves. Now let's switch that off again and see this phase thing. And in the oversampling for the filters, we see that the phase shifts in a strange way. And this is because I didn't adjust the latency. The plugin reports 16 samples latency. And as you can see, that's absolutely correct. With the correctly reported latency, we shouldn't have comp filtering or any artifacts anymore. And now we have this other mode, the min phase anti-alias filter. And this filter has only 5 samples of latency. And without touching the equalizer, you see it does a filter here. And that's also dropping around 15 kilohertz. And that's a so-called anti-alias filter. So if you produce a lot of saturation using the saturate thing here in mode 3 and maybe use a lot of in-gain, you could get some alias frequencies here. But this anti-alias filter can really reduce them so that they should at least not be noticeable anymore. And just for the complete information, both of the oversampling algorithms don't produce pre-ringing. At least they shouldn't produce pre-ringing, and are also tested and measured and couldn't test or measure pre-ringing. So don't worry about your transients here. Well, that was a lot of talking, but that is it for today. Let me know what you think in the comments. And as said, if you find bugs or strange behavior, let me know in the comments too. But please be so kind and leave the necessary information along with it. So long, I hope you have fun with the plugin. I hope you have fun with all the other plugins, and bye bye.